So let's say you found the skeleton. How would you tell it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
Hey everybody, welcome to Jackson with Jackson 34 Pseudoscience Jump Scare. I just named it that because I found that picture of Charles Jackson where, like, he's just kind of popping up from the bottom of the frame like a horror movie monster. And I'm just like, what is this image? I'm going to use it. It looks fun. So yeah, there's actually no particular horror theme or anything right now. So I am, of
We
course,
were listening to him.
well, okay, there's no additional horror theme other than the horrors of
okay.
listening to Bad Jackson.
Gotcha.
Yes. So I am here, of course, with good Jackson, Jackson Wheat. Jackson, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Doing A-okay.
Good. How's teaching people physics going?
Well, really, the physics stuff starts kind of next. Sorry, not this Thursday, but next Tuesday is when we start with like Newtonian motion and stuff.
No, I thought that had been superseded by Einstein. That's what the flurfs keep telling me. We don't need to worry about Newton anymore because Einstein replaced Newton.
In that case, I will no longer worry about air resistance or gravity.
Awesome. That sounds great.
So, yeah. Yeah, like the first chapter is all about like the history and methodology of science, and as we were just talking about, I get to teach a whole lecture on pseudoscience, which has been like kind of my main topics of interest for the last 8 years. So I have a little bit to say about that, you know. That was fun.
I mean, I watched you doing pseudoscience stuff before I even started this channel.
That's kind of could
Yeah. I've been watching your channel since long before I ever talked to you.
Oh, that's fair. I think Erica, she like emailed me, and then I had her on, and now she's got like so many followers. If you don't follow, and I assume your entire audience follows Erica. Like everyone should follow Erica. She makes amazing videos. Also, Dapper makes amazing videos. So if for whatever reason you've stumbled into here and you aren't subscribed to Dapper, you should probably do it. But yeah, like I started my channel in August or September of 2016 because I met a creationist while I was on campus at LSU Baton Rouge, and then the LSU, and then I started making. Well, first I made response videos and started like actual videos, and then eventually I met RJ and we wrote co-authored a book together, and I met you and Dan and Erica and all these awesome people. People who I also watched on YouTube, like I've now met, PZ Myers, Donald Prothero, Matt Dillahunty. A lot of the people who are in Raw, a lot of people who I watched like before that in like the earlier days of YouTube, and getting to meet them is pretty neat. Always getting to meet people is cool.
I agree.
It's very nice to have this like interconnected system.
When are you gonna get to meet Dr. Charles Jackson?
If I'm lucky, never. I mean, he seems like a nice enough guy. As we've talked about it before, Dr. Dan talked with Bad Jackson a while back about ERVs and some other stuff, I think. And I mean, he's a nice enough guy, but like, there's really not a whole lot going on there in terms of like his knowledge base for any of these subjects, whether it's anthropology, paleontology, genetics. He just fundamentally doesn't know really anything about these fields. And I mean, in fairness, none of them are his expertise. His expertise is in teaching.
Right.
So, like, I'm sure he's good at that. I mean, I'm sure that in some capacity he's good at that. Watching these, it kind of makes me wonder, like, oof, eesh, but I'm sure he's good at those in some capacity.
Yeah. We have a membership chat from Lesbiandria, who's been a member for 13 months. It says, recovering from gender reaffirming surgery today. Glad to have a Dapper stream to listen to while resting with the Godzilla. Well, first of all, get well soon. Congratulations. And I hope that your recovery is swift and with as little pain as possible. Surgery is never fun. So, Yeah, I really do hope
True.
that recovers as quickly and as painlessly as possible. All right, now let's go in with this. We are doing a one of the famous Tuesday drinking streams. I have myself some hard Mountain Dew because I still have some left over from last time. I actually bought a 6-pack of beer, forgetting that I had 3 cans of hard Mountain Dew left, including one of Baja Blast. So, like, I don't know why I did that, but I did. So now there's beer and hard Mountain Dew and a little tiny bit of gin, and that's like way more booze than is usually in the house. So, now, first of all, before we get into the rules, I want to say you do not have to play along, and if you do play along, you do not have to use any kind of intoxicating substance. But if you do want to play along and you don't want to drink, that's absolutely fine. You want to play along with water, tea, juice, soda, coffee, vape pens, whatever. That's fine. Eating a chip. You want to eat a chip every time we take a drink? That's fine too. Just no matter what, pace yourself and know your limits. Be safe. And if you do choose to play along with an intoxicating substance, please do not then go out, drive, operate heavy machinery, fly an airplane, text your ex. All of these are bad ideas. But the chemicals will tell you that they're good ideas. They are liars. Don't believe them. We here at the Dapper Dinosaur channel, as well as Jackson Wheat, accept absolutely no liability or responsibility for any of the silly nonsense you get up to as a result of you opting to play along in a dangerous manner. And this is your warning. Play safe. So that being said, we will take a drink anytime Dr. Charles Jackson says something that's so stupid we just kind of have to. We'll also take a drink anytime he says something that's actually factually correct, but that he's not just reading off some list or something, or just directly quoting something. Actually has to be in his brain, and he has to speak it himself. So we'll also take a drink if Dr. Charles Jackson tells a joke that doesn't land or tells a story that didn't happen. Now that's a bit of a judgment call on the story that didn't happen. We have to decide whether or not we find it plausible. But it is what it is. Here's another hint. These rules don't matter. They're just for fun. So, like, you know what? If you think that there should have been a drink trigger and there wasn't, take a drink. If you don't like one of them, don't take a drink. Also, feel free to drink when there are drink triggers. I don't care. It's, again, just for fun. We'll also take a drink if Dr. Charles Jackson mentions those that political party in Germany from the 1930s into the 40s that people are rightly not fans of. I'm going to say not fans of, but it seems like that's just like oh, that's not my favorite sports teams. I mean, they're rightly not fans of that group. So we'll also take a drink if Dr. Charles Jackson mixes up anything we can know from just the skeleton Lucy with anything we can know about any wider taxon to which she belongs, which is usually going to be Australopithecus. We can only do that once per show, though. That's called ad hominid. We'll also take a drink if Dr. Charles Jackson cites a source and we check the source, and rather than the source simply not supporting him, if it actively contradicts him, well, then we take a drink for Trojan source. We'll take a drink if either Jackson or I can guess what Dr. Charles Jackson is going to say next, when it's not very, very obvious, which sometimes it is, so that doesn't really count. We'll also take a drink if any of you super chat or membership chat anything with any of the kaiju emojis, which we already saw Lesbiandria do, by sending in a Godzilla emoji. We'll also take a drink if any of you super chat or membership milestone chat anything to the effect that answers in Genesis, that is AIG, are a bag of dicks. Now you might have to get creative because YouTube likes to censor that phrase. So, you have to be a little bit clever. You can send it in a different language. You can send it in some kind of code. Alliteration is always appreciated. Stuff like that. We'll also take a drink if Mothra or Godzilla come by audibly, which might happen. We'll also take a drink for gifted memberships. If you gift a membership, we take a drink. If you give 5 memberships, we take 5 drinks. If you give 50, I'm just going to finish this can of Hard Mountain Dew and go grab another one. So, and then add 50 to the drink counter. So, there you go. Also, people ask me this. I always get asked, how close are we to, well, not always, but I frequently get asked, how close are we to having another emoji? And the thing is that because we are at the point now where, like, new memberships that have been gifted and people joining are roughly in equilibrium with the people who are, like, having their membership expire and not renewing them, we have been sitting for a while pretty close to needing between 50 and, like, 30-ish. Right now, I think closer to 30-ish. So, yeah, I think I'm at 422 total memberships right now, and I believe the next one is at 50. or it's 450. So let me double check. Let's see. Yeah, I think it's at 450. It says right now I need 41 more members, which seems wrong, but then again, it always lies to me. So who knows? So yeah, that if you're someone who's wondering that, that is the answer there. Of course, if we get enough, I will do a fancy avatar, and if we get enough, Bent will get a free pizza. A free pizza that he will have to eat some other day, because once again, Ben is apparently under the weather. So anyone who...
No.
Yeah, people who are into any kind of good vibes, send Bent some good vibes. If you are into prayer, you feel free. And if you're not into either of those things, that's okay. Jackson, do you have anything you want to say before we get into the Charles Jackson thing?
You also usually mention kaiju emojis.
I did mention the kaiju emojis.
Finally watched the second Pacific Rim.
Oh.
It was not as good as the first one, in my opinion.
Yes, that seems to be the consensus.
Okay, I just wanted to throw that. I had not seen it, and but Camille and I watched it, and I was like, it was okay. I think the first one was better. It's all right.
Yeah. All right. So when last we left off, Dr. Charles Jackson was asking the Christians to think, which one will they trust? The Holy Bible or physical evidence? Now, he didn't put it that way, but that's essentially what he was asking. I would suggest that you always trust physical evidence. And I don't particularly care whether or not you trust the Bible, but if you feel like your interpretation of the Bible is going against physical reality, you probably either are putting your trust in the wrong thing, or you're interpreting the thing you're trusting in the wrong way. So that's where I'm going to leave that. Jackson, do you have anything to add to that?
I actually just finished a book titled 1177 BC, the year civilization collapsed, which was very good. Highly recommend. And one of the things it talked about relevant to this point was about the Exodus story and how there really isn't any archaeological evidence that an event described in Exodus occurred as described in Exodus. And I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. There almost certainly was no Exodus as described in the book of Exodus. There almost certainly was no Moses as described in the book of Exodus. It's possible that it is a story about something like a Canaanite group led by some particular leader who threw off Egyptian hegemony during the Bronze Age. That's a potentially valid like historical thing, because we do know that Egyptian hegemony over the area of Canaan waxed and waned throughout the Bronze Age. So that's perfectly plausible. But yeah, there was no giant group of slaves that exited Egypt as described in the Bible.
Which what added further interest to it for me was that I believe it was in is it First Kings that says that the date that they give for when this would have occurred was during a time of actually very strong Egyptian control of the land of Canaan. And historians are like, yeah, that probably didn't happen at that point. It probably happened at this other point because of these two other cities that were mentioned later that wouldn't have been completed under that pharaoh. They would have been completed later. So it probably didn't happen then. So I just thought that was really interesting. So.
Alex Markle says, you said send good vibes. How many Hitachi massagers do you need? Well, currently I'm at 0, so probably more than that. Writer's one man's Hovind is no one's freedom fighter for $5 says, oh no, I feel like an invisible hobbit is sneaking around. Best hit that like button. I agree. You don't want to get accidentally bilboed. All right, let's hit play on this.
What are you going to do? There's the Bible with Genesis 1. There's National Geographic with all those fossils from China and the backing of every major institution of science in the planet, except for one little Elijah group holding up.
Literally, you're asking me, which one should I trust? One book whose contents, if taken the way you want it to be taken, contradict virtually everything I can observe in reality, including these fossils? Or should I accept the fossils and the conclusions about them made by everyone who knows what they're talking about? I don't see how that's a hard decision, and I don't see why he thinks that anyone would choose the Bible.
Or
at least his interpretation
set that up.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it seemed like he wanted you to pick the scientific institutions.
Right?
Because he said every single scientific institution on the planet versus, like, this one book. It's like, it sounds like you're trying to sell me on not the one book.
It reminds me
Say
of
this.
when Matt Powell, every once in a while, he's like, "Did you know that Darwin had doubts about his hypothesis? Would you believe me if I came up here and I said sometimes I think maybe I'm believing a lie?" I'm like, yeah, Matt, I would be much more likely to believe you. Because that would mean you had to think about it, Matt.
Right.
That would mean that you
Yeah.
had some kind of critical thought process where you took seriously the possibility that you were wrong. And then you came to the conclusion that, no, I think I'm not, actually, overall, after investigating. That would make me trust you way more. But for him, apparently, feeling like maybe you should check in to see if you're right or not, no, that's a bad thing. And Dr. Charles Jackson has the same energy. He's just not quite as dumb as Matt Powell. He's not likely to tell us about the air in space because the sun needs oxygen.
I haven't seen. Have you watched any Matt Powell stuff in a while? I haven't seen any of his stuff in, like, I feel like it's been years at this point.
He hasn't been doing a lot of new stuff. His most recent new video is the one that Vice Rhino was covering, and it's where he's
Okay.
he's lit by red lights in a red room, and the only reason I can think of that is because he must be having a rosacea outbreak, and he doesn't want that to show up on camera.
Aw. Okay.
I mean,
Well, tragic.
look,
But I literally haven't seen any of his videos. And the last thing I heard from him that he was like fleeing Dinosaur Adventure.
that was like a year or year and a half ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been doing some stuff since then. And look, Matt Powell, if you watch this, it's okay to have rosacea. I get it, right? But maybe instead of lighting yourself with red lights in a red room, instead, just go get some foundation and be on camera in a little bit of makeup. Because here's the thing, right? Most men who appear on things like in TV or on movies are wearing makeup. It's not that weird. Your favorite movie star, your favorite news anchor, even on Newsmax, which is, I'm presuming, the new show you're watching, they have makeup on, I promise. It's not that weird. And you don't even have to do it outside, right? Just do it for the camera, if that's what you're worried about. Because it looks way less weird than being in a red room with red lighting. Prixie, Dapper Dinosaur is a linguist. A linguist, I like it. Purple. Member for 6 months says, 6 months already with a Godzilla. Well, congratulations on 6 months of being a member. Centered, who's been a member for 10 months, is at the tetrapod level, says they call it, quote, blind faith for a reason. Yeah, I mean, if that's what you have, then, I mean, yeah. Oh, and as Alex Markle says, makeup? That's gay shit. I mean, is it? Look, the first time I wore makeup was stage makeup, and it's the only kind of, that, as far as I can tell, I've ever worn, except for, like, Halloween costume makeup. And the thing is, you don't put makeup on and you're in bright lights, like, on stage, or, like, you're filming, you're just shiny and gross. Just put on some makeup. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Holding up a Bible. And don't say anything or raise your hand like a good homeschooler, but...
Oh yeah, I forgot this is a crowd of homeschool kids that he's talking to. Gross.
Ooh.
Yeah. Not that homeschooling is necessarily gross. I know a lot of people who've done really good homeschooling who were not indoctrinating their kids into pseudoscience. But a lot of the people in the United States who do homeschooling do it specifically so that they can indoctrinate their kids into cult-like religious groups, or make sure that they don't hear about science and instead only hear about their parents' weird favorite pseudoscience. And that's gross.
Yep.
And not appropriate. I'm a big fan of there needs to be some kind of curriculum standards for homeschooling that at least match what's being learned in the public school.
Yeah, there's like all the major creationist orgs like have a lot invested in writing textbooks for homeschool groups. They go to all these homeschool like conventions and meetings and stuff and
Yeah.
hawk their wares. So yeah.
Oh, and Obstinate Sparrow points out the public school leaves much to be desired. Yeah, look, there are a lot of problems with public schools in the United States of America, and presumably other countries too. I'm not as familiar with other countries' public school systems. So yeah, I am, by saying that there's a problem with American homeschooling, that is not to say that there's not a problem with, the public schools in the United States. There should probably be some pretty big changes going on there. But I'm not an expert on that. I just know that the results have not been what I would like them to be for kids. So Anyway.
But pick in your brain right now, in your soul, in your heart. Because Elijah asked, how long will you halt between two opinions? You need to make it up in your mind now. You need to decide.
No, you don't. Here's the thing, right? If you're not sure what to believe about the age of the Earth, you don't have to decide. What I don't. Why is he saying that you have to pick? You don't have to pick, actually. If you don't know what the correct answer to something is, you can just abstain from providing an answer. You don't have to know everything. It is fine to not know things. Now, if you're interested, you can look into it, but I'm taking a drink. I really hate that. Like, why are you high pressure sales technique on kids about the freaking age of the Earth or whether birds are dinosaurs or not? Those are such ultimately like trivial, unimportant things, even in your religion. Like, just stop, man. I hate that.
Ask God to help you and give you the courage just to even say it inside. Just to even say it inside. I know Goliath looks pretty bad. But he went down pretty bad. In the old days, us old guys have a saying, the bigger they are, the harder.
Well, here's a fun one. Hey, Jackson, who killed Goliath according to the Bible?
David.
Are you sure?
I feel like I'm not now that you're asking me that.
Well, you're not wrong. It's just that there's another name that's also the name of someone who killed Goliath. And it's Elhanan. And
Okay.
yeah, there's just two people in the Bible who killed Goliath. It just depends on which part of the Bible you're reading.
Oh, okay.
Yep. It's either Elhanan or David. So
I gotcha.
that's fun.
This is kind of like when Jesus was born, whether it was like during the reign of Herod the Great or like after the Quirinius census, which are two different time periods, that sort of thing.
Yeah, there's all sorts of weird timing type stuff there, and also there's some speculation that maybe the Elhanan tradition was older. The reason we hear about David is because it's a big story, whereas the passage about Elhanan is just like a single verse saying that Elhanan, son of whatever, slew Goliath, the Jaredite or something. Yeah, so there's like a whole story about David, you know, like coming back from his flocks at the behest of, like, you know, the king or something, and then going to the river to find stones for his sling, and there's a whole story there. Whereas the Elhanan bit is just like, and Elhanan slew Goliath. Okay, cool. Moving on.
No fanfare.
No fanfare. Poor Elhanan.
They fall. No, you weren't supposed to repeat it, young people. The end of that little phrase was, the harder they fall. And Goliath sure did fall. And maybe this could too, but we have to decide after I finish Bird of Paradise, bro Mike. Okay, troubles with...
Did he just say bro Mike?
Yeah, I don't... What does that mean?
Is that like a Gen Alpha thing that I don't know about?
I have never heard. It's possible. I feel like I'm usually fairly up on the lingo, and like I have never heard that phrase before. I don't know.
Yeah.
I could just be wrong. Maybe it is.
Who is the Archaeoraptor that they found in 1999 in November of...
Wait, is he saying that Archaeoraptor was actually a bird of paradise? Because that's a take I've never heard before.
Wait, hold on. Can we rewind it a little bit? I'm also very confused.
All right.
Maybe this could too, but we have to decide after I finish Bird of Paradise, bro Mike. Okay, troubles with Bird of Paradise. Who is the Archaeoraptor that they found in 1999 in November of 1999?
It does sound like he's saying that Archaeoraptor was a bird of paradise, which is that an analogy or a euphemism? Like I
don't know.
I genuinely don't know what he means.
I mean, part of it was a Microraptor, which is absolutely not a bird of paradise. And I don't remember what the other half was, but I don't even
Was it Yanornis, I think?
Yeah, something like that, but that's also not a bird of paradise in any way.
Right. Yeah, because I felt like I was having a strong listening to that sentence with the bro mic and then the bird of paradise, Archaeopter, Archaeoraptor.
Is he making up his own slang to be cool with the kids? Is that what's happening? It might be what's happening.
I don't know what was going on there.
Okay. I feel like the reason he's wearing plaid is because he remembers there being plaid as big with the kids in the 90s. And he's like, well, they must still be big with the kids, so I'm gonna wear plaid. Maybe that's what's up.
In March of 2000, just 4 months later, a new issue of National Geographic came out that had a letter to the editor from a scientist in China who had worked with the Archaeoraptor fossil and wrote this letter to the editor.
I want to stop and say
it's
real
probably
quick.
Zhu Jing.
I want to thank Dr. Charles Jackson real quick for being so loud earlier and yelling now that there's no way for me to properly balance his audio. I really appreciate that. That's fun. That's my favorite. Raylo Gatubello for $2 says, I think this is Hawaiian? Ekeke Kalohina Makinohi, which I'm going to just assume is Hawaiian, maybe. Or AIG's bag of dicks. Let's take a drink. Thank you very much, Raylo Gatubello. If it wasn't Hawaiian, I suspect it was some other Polynesian language. But if it is Hawaiian, let me know. I do believe that it's one of the only Polynesian languages that's easy to get like learning materials in or for. Sorry.
Interesting. He's probably referring. I would imagine he's referring to or Shuxing, however you pronounce that. He was one of the paleontologists who looked at the fossil and said, "No, this is not real."
Yeah.
Just like all the other paleontologists looked at it because it fooled no one in the paleontological community. Crazy.
It was Hawaiian. And I also hope my Hawaiian pronunciation was okay-ish because I do not know much about Hawaiian.
Zhu Jing from the...
I was right.
Yay!
Prediction.
Prediction.
Confirmed.
Drink for prediction.
Yeah.
There's a drink.
The Institute of Vertebrate Paleontology and Paleoanthropology and the Chinese Academy of Sciences in Beijing wrote this letter to National Geographic, and they just put in this little letters to the editor part in March of 2000. After observing a new feathered dromaeosaur specimen in a private collection and comparing it with the fossil known as Archaeoraptor, I have concluded the Archaeoraptor is a composite.
Yeah. Like, everyone told National Geographic before they published. Like, I really want to drive home the degree to which not a single scientist took Archaeoraptor seriously. It was only a private collector and the people at National Geographic who wanted to sell magazines. There was no description of Archaeoraptor published in any actual journal, ever, anywhere. Because every single paleontologist who looked at it, who had anything to do with vertebrate paleontology, was like, nah, man, this isn't it. Don't go with this. This is a bad idea. But the fossil owner and National Geographic, they saw dollar signs. My Infinite Journey says, hail Nero, hail Dap, and hail Good Jackson, and hail Bro Mike. I want to know what the heck Bro Mike is. It's got to be something. Something was in his brain. For him, that is a thing that exists.
Bro Mike.
I'll hit play while you check.
I get no results if I look that up.
Hmm.
Bro Mike? Or is it, wait, bro? What is that? Nope, it's a type of heater.
I don't think that's what he was talking about.
None of the searches shed any light whatsoever. They only add heat. No, just kidding.
All right, here we go.
What's that mean? It's a what? It's made up. It's a mix composed of two things.
Well, technically, a composite could be more than two things, but in this case, yes, it was two.
Is like his narrative on this gonna, change since he was like, the scientific community fell for it, except for they didn't fall for it because here's the letter from the editors, but they fell for it. Like, wait, hold on. Wait, did everyone fall for it? Or did only some people fall for it? Is that going to be worked into the story? I don't know.
Okay, Fate Degrade, Justice for Elhanan, nice, who's a member for 27 months, says AIG, and then So here's one of my problems. I never know whether or not YouTube has mixed up like the ordering. Like, should that AIG actually be at the beginning of the sentence or where it is now at the end of the sentence? I don't know. And I'm not really going to try to read through the Hebrew, like, Ides. Yeah, no, I'm not even going to try. My Hebrew is exceptionally bad, but I'm going to assume that it's AIG is a bag of dicks in Hebrew, and we're going to take a drink for it. And then Laserfan, who's been a member for 11 months. Oh, by the way, that AIG is a bag of dicks came with a proper sessile tunicate. Laserfan, who's 17, who's been a member for 11 months and is at the annual level, says, Godzilla, Archaeoraptor is still more real than biblical creation. At least it's made of 2 real animals. I mean, there is that. It is 2 real fossils. We'll take a drink. Both of whom were feathered dinosaurs, which is one of the craziest parts about this. Like, you believe in feathered dinosaurs? What about Archaeoraptor? That was a composite. Yeah, a composite of 2 different feathered dinosaurs. What point are you trying to make here? But also, I gotta say, if the fact that a hoax was published in National Geographic and not accepted by any scientists is a point against evolutionary biology, then what are all of the archaeological hoaxes perpetrated by and on Christians? Because there's been a lot of those. A lot.
Oh yeah, the Red Sea chariot wheels, the fake like ark landing sites.
How about the teriyaki flavored ark? Remember that one?
Teriyaki flavored ark?
Yeah.
Tell me about that one.
There was a guy, at least one of my videos actually go through like the sources and whatnot. So you can feel free to double check this. This is a true story, but I don't have the sources to hand, so feel free to Google it. Sorry. I'm still recovering from a brief illness a few days ago. So this guy was like, I'm going to prank the creationists because they seem just incredibly credulous about anything that, if true, would support their worldview. And of course, he was very right about that. So he just took some scrap wood and soaked it in teriyaki sauce to make it look older. And then he presented this along with some cockamamie story about like going to Turkey or whatever, and said that this is the wood from the actual ark. And the creationists ate it up, while the wood still stank of teriyaki sauce.
Isn't that's like a similar thing that happened with the Ica stones, wasn't it? Like
Yeah,
there was
basically.
like a patina on them.
Yeah, that was baked on cow dung. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. To make it look old.
Teriyaki sauce is considerably less gross, but you know.
That's still great. I love that. That's so funny. The Akambaro figures, actually the Ica stones, that's another one.
So there are real Akambaro figures,
print.
and there are stones known from the area that the Ica stones are supposed to have come from that are archaeologically validated.
Sure.
Sorry, but the real ones don't depict dinosaurs and space shuttles and things like that. Like, they just don't. So we have for $5 Vandalion 1998 says, in which journal was your species Ceratosaurus the Dapper published? I actually don't know what journal first published the description of Ceratosaurus nasicornis. I don't think I've ever actually looked up the initial description. Maybe I should someday. I did recently look up the initial description of Australopithecus afarensis. So,
who named Ceratosaurus? That was Marsh.
That makes sense. I mean,
and
a lot of them are just Cope or Marsh.
Yeah, true. Yeah, if they're North American, yeah.
Yep.
Was nay. I'm not reading all this. This is too much. Okay, anyway.
All right, here we go.
Uh-oh. The tail portions of the 2 fossils are identical. See, okay, when you get a fossil that is in slate or shale like that, and it's got like layers of grain to it, like a book or like wood, what they do is they see a bone sticking out, and then they'll take a chisel or something and they'll cut it, and boom, it folds open like a book. And on one side,
well, it cracks open into 2 sides. It's not bound like a book, but whatever. This is close enough to being right that I'll give it to him. We'll take a drink. This is all basically how a lot of fossils work. Yeah. Trixie Archaeoraptor is a bird of paradise purple for $10 says, it's so nice of you to stream, especially for me on my birthday. Well, happy birthday. And at a time I could watch it live. So have 100 more characters in this message. So, sorry. I have 100 more characters in this message. So, AIG equals bag of dicks. Drink. Mothra. Ghidorah. Tapper emoji. Thank you very much. I will take a drink for that. Well, really, happy birthday. I do hope that you have a wonderful birthday. All right, here we go.
Got the left image, and the other side, you have a mirror image of that fossil. Well, Zhu Jing found a farmer who had sold the fossil to the Americans, and he found the other half of the fossil.
We call that the counter slab, by the way. This is not a criticism of Charles Jackson. I don't think it's necessary for him to tell this group of kids about slab versus counter slab, but for your guys' information, that other side of the slab, the one that doesn't actually have the body fossil but still has the impression, that's called the counter slab. And if you have one way to check to see if a fossil is in fact authentic, is to check to see if the slab and the counter slab are identical, because it's very, very difficult, bordering on impossible, to fake a slab and also fake a perfectly identical counter slab. It's one of the ways that we know that Fred Hoyle was wrong about the feathers on Archaeopteryx being faked, because the counter slab of the Archaeopteryx specimens that we have all match the feather impressions, which you couldn't do by his proposed method of faking the feathers, which was that they were pressed into wet cement that was added to the fossil. So, yeah. Now, we also know, because, well, there's no cement on the fossil, because limestone and cement aren't the same thing, and we could check, and we have checked, and it's not cement. But even before the chemical analysis and whatnot were done, we already knew that Fred Hoyle was just talking about nothing because of the slab and the counter slab. And this is another example of using a slab versus the counter slab. But I also want to point out it's an example of scientists testing the claims made by people purporting to do science and finding that they're wrong. And what I would like to know is how this situation could have gone any better according to Charles Jackson. Like, what would Charles Jackson have had scientists do? Because remember, every single professional scientist who looked at this, who had anything to do with the field, said, nope, you should not publish this at this time. This is probably a composite. There's not enough evidence. We need to do way more investigation before we can say what's going on here. I want you to think about it, and maybe put it in the chat. What do you think, or the comments, what do you think Charles Jackson would prefer scientists to have done other than what they did do? Sanguine Luca descendant Sonber for $10 says, I was homeschooled. We ran into a lot of people who denied evolution and climate change. Nice people, but also very, very wrong. With 3 AIGs are a bag of dicks, and a Godzilla, and a Mothra, and a Ghidorah, and so we'll take a drink. And yeah, I mean, I was actually homeschooled for a few years, not very long. What was it? I think it was like 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, maybe? And, like, I don't remember there being any explicitly creationist stuff in there, but then again, in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, it's not like my parents were teaching me about, like, you know, in-depth genetics and stuff like that. So it was a lot of it was just like, you know, basic animal groups and whatnot. Like, this is an insect. This kind of insect is a butterfly. But yeah, like I said, homeschooling is not in itself inherently bad, but a lot of people homeschool for bad reasons. Which is true for a lot of things in the world, right? Like,
Yep.
you know, nuclear physics is not inherently bad, but some people use it to make bombs to kill innocent civilians. That's bad.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make atoms bad. It doesn't make atomic physics bad. But, you know, it's what you do with it that makes it whether it's good or bad. And that's true for homeschooling, just like it is for public schooling, right? Like, I don't think in the United States that there's a big push to make public schools crazy indoctrination centers for dangerous ideologies. But there probably are in other countries. Not great. I'll bet those North Korean public schools are pretty bad.
And it didn't look like this.
What, it didn't look like a parrot? I mean, yeah. Do you mean it didn't look like the pictures of Archaeoraptor? Because in that case, actually, the Microraptor kind of did look like that. I honestly don't know what he's talking
It didn't look like this.
about. Like what?
The tail portions of the two fossils are identical, but other elements of the new specimen are very different from Archaeoraptor, in fact, more closely resembling Cinorhynchosaurus, though
Sinornithosaurus, not Cinorhynchosaurus, which is, I guess, what the other half was. Sinornithosaurus. Lorenzo Morales says, "What's your take on young Earth creationists say that the Earth was created with age?" Look, that's logically identical to last Thursdayism, where the Earth was created last Thursday, and everything that you think is making it seem like it's older, including your memories, are just things placed by God to make the Earth seem older. Can I say it's wrong? No. But the only logical thing to do, if that's true, is to just treat the Earth as if it's old and to believe that it's old, because it's where literally all the evidence points, because an omnipotent being has arranged everything to look like that. So just go with it. It's the only thing you can do. Vesta Freyer, who's been a member for 20 months and is at the Amulet level, says, "Let's not forget that Charles Jackson is a member of Mensa and got confused when converting between BC AD and BCE CE dates." Oh, buddy. Poor Charles. Poor Charles.
Do not want to believe it. Archaeoraptor appears to be composed of a dromaeosaur tail and a bird body. It really was.
Sinornithosaurus being a bird is a little... It depends on what you mean by bird. That's one of the things that I really hate about these discussions, is that bird taxonomy, when it comes to like things that aren't quite avians, but that are closer than most dinosaurs, it gets complicated. Like, I like to say that Sinornithosaurus, or like I like to say that bird is basically crown aves. Now, recognize that a lot of people don't like that, but I don't know what else to do. But also, Sinornithosaurus isn't a bird according to most creationists. It's in fact a dromaeosaur. So it's in the same family as Velociraptor, or Deinonychus, or Utahraptor.
Menton would say it's a bird.
Menton would, but both the Creation Center that ICR has, as well as the Creation Museum that AIG has, both depict dromaeosaurs, if I remember correctly, as scaly reptiles.
I'm pretty sure you're correct on that.
Yeah, that's one of those things where, like, once you get to Dromaeosauridae, because the thing is, Dromaeosauridae is part of a larger group called Deinonychosauria, and that, in most estimates, is the sister group to Paraves, which are all the things that are basically anything that you could reasonably call a bird is going to fall into Paraves. And Deinonychosauria is just outside that group. And that's why creationists will split Deinonychosauria into groups where some parts of a family are birds and some parts of the family are dinosaurs, and they consider those not only just different kinds, but like entirely different giant taxonomic groupings above the kind, right? Like mammal. But they're members of the same family, which normally they would say are the same kind. And what this reveals is the same thing that it reveals when you realize that, like, the same skull will be described as human or ape by different creationists on different days, or sometimes by the same creationist on different days. We're getting to animals that are so perfectly transitional that they don't know what to do with them. And so they just do everything with them, except how transitional they are. Okay, we got a couple super chats. For $5, Vandalia1998 says, "If last Thursdayism is true, then this is technically the very first Jackson with Jackson ever, and number 34 number is false. Is false advertising. Drink. Well, it's false advertising, except that you can still find 33 previous episodes on my channel. So, I mean...
It has the appearance of age.
Right. I guess I could renumber them with going like, this is number 1, and then the previous one is 0, and then going into negative numbers as we go back. I guess I could do that. Roshna, gently used color for $1.99 says, "I am composed of a monkey tail and human body." I think that's just a human body. Because technically, the coccyx is a monkey tail. Alright, here we go.
It was half dinosaur and half bird. Someone broke the tail.
No, it was all dinosaurs. 2 different dinosaurs. Both of which were dromaeosaurs, which are generally not considered birds by creationists. I'm taking a drink. This guy can't get any of this right.
Off a dinosaur fossil and glued it to a bird fossil that was extinct and claimed it was a dino bird.
No. He took the tail of one dinosaur and glued it onto the body of a different dinosaur. Which would still be true if one of them were a bird, but in this case, neither of them were.
And it fooled the world's greatest evolution experts.
The staff of National Geographic?
It sure didn't. Julia Clark, Zhu Jing, I can't remember who else. They all went, nope.
Yep.
This ain't it.
It fooled literally no experts in evolutionary biology. Not a single one. That's just a lie, Jackson, and I suspect you know it. I'm taking a drink for it. Austin Sparrow points out half dinosaur, half dromaeosaur. Yes, exactly. Half dromaeosaur, half dinosaur. Joshua Geesh has gifted 10 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. Thank you so much. That is extremely generous of you. We will take 10 drinks. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I have to take a quick break because I'm getting a little bit of brain freeze. Nope. There we go. 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Mountain Dew. You know, Mountain Dew was originally intended to be mixed with whiskey. And I was just thinking
Really?
how bad of an idea it would be to mix hard Mountain Dew with whiskey. Like, oof. I actually do kind of like Mountain Dew with whiskey. Mountain Dew and whiskey is actually not that bad. All right, here we go.
These guys are smart. They study fossils their whole life. How could they be fooled? But
They weren't. That's the thing. Charles,
They were not.
Charles Jackson, if you ever watch this, name a single working paleontologist who was fooled by this. Because the collector was just a private collector who collected fossils as like a hobby. None of the editorial staff at National Geographic are paleontologists. The author of the paper wasn't a paleontologist. Who was fooled? That's a paleontologist or an evolutionary biologist. I would love to get a name. You know, like Dr. So-and-so of whatever university. Who was it? Who was fooled by this? What peer-reviewed paper was even submitted? Or sorry, what paper was even submitted to a peer-reviewed journal about this? The answer is none. No one. Nothing like that occurred. Against the advice of every single expert that they asked, National Geographic published a story, and then, just like every single expert said would happen, they all got egg on their face. I reiterate, what possible response from scientists would Charles Jackson have preferred? Let me know in the comments. Only in part because comments drive the algorithm. But honestly, I want your takes. What could possibly be a preferable reaction from scientists, according to Charles Jackson, for this whole situation? Because I can't think of how scientists could possibly have comported themselves better in this case. Can you, Jackson?
No, nope. They went through all the steps, you know.
Yeah. Look, when all the experts tell you, "Hey, don't do this thing," and then you do, it's not the expert's fault. It's your fault for not listening to them.
something so stupid like that because they wanted it to be true.
Then why did none of them say it was true? Plus, again, it was two-feathered dinosaurs in the first place. What big win was it for them to get Archaeoraptor rather than just say, hey, look, a Sinornithosaurus specimen. We already knew about Sinornithosaurus. It's already a feathered dinosaur. Rochina, gently used Catter for $4.99, says, my fellow half Catarine monkey, half humans, let us rise up against our creationist oppressor. Oh, where's Pillow Punk, half dog, half canine when you need her? Oh my goodness. This is I don't even know what this is. It's something.
Adam and Eve wanted it to be true. Ye shall be as gods.
I mean, I want to point out that according to Genesis 2, that was true. Because remember, let's pull up some Genesis 2 here. This is not something I normally do. I don't normally read the Bible here. We'll do the NIV. I feel like that's a translation that Jackson would probably end up using. Let's see. Oh, maybe I mean Genesis. Sorry. I don't remember exactly where the 2 is like the initial creation account. I think 3 the serpent in the tree. Oh, yeah. Okay. So let's see. You will not certainly die, the serpent said to the woman, for God knows that when you eat of it, from it your eyes will be open, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. Okay, so that's what the serpent is claiming, because earlier God had said that if on the day that you eat of this tree, you shall surely die. Okay. So when the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eye and also desirable for gaining wisdom, she took some of it and ate it. She also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate it. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they realized they were naked, and so they sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves. So remember what the serpent is saying. For God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened. Okay, so what happens according to the narrative when they eat it? Then the eyes of both of them were opened. So far, the snake is right. The snake has not lied. Then man and his wife heard the sound of the Lord God as he was walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and hid from the Lord God among the trees. But the Lord God called to the man, saying, "Where are you?" He answered, "I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." And he said, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from?" So here is God acknowledging that the only reason that they could know that they were naked is because their eyes were opened, which is, again, confirmation that what the snake said was right. Okay? Then the Lord God said to the woman, "What is this you have done?" We're skipping a little bit. The woman said, "The serpent deceived me, and I ate." So the Lord God said to the serpent, "Because you have done this, blah, blah, blah." He said to the woman the curses. Let's see. Now, skipping down to verse 21, the Lord God made garments of skin for Adam and his wife and clothed them, and the Lord God said, "The man has now become like one of us, knowing good and evil." So, when the snake said that the humans would become like God, knowing good and evil, and that their eyes were open, now this is the third time that this text is confirming that what the snake said was true. He must not be allowed to reach out his hand and take also from the tree of life and eat and live forever, becoming like God in the second way, immortality. So God banished them from the Garden of Eden to work for the ground from which he had been taken. So, when the serpent said that, which part of it was a lie? Did Adam and Eve die on that day? Nope. Were their eyes open? Yep. Did they become like God, knowing good and evil? Well, according to God, yes. So, sorry, Charles Jackson, none of that's a lie. That's all the truth. The snake didn't lie. Now, you can argue that it was a bad idea in the narrative. Whatever, I don't care. But saying that, oh, these scientists are acting like the snake and lying, when the snake didn't lie, really all you're telling me is that these scientists are telling a truth that you don't like. I'm taking a drink for it. Alright, Roshina, gently used counter for $1.99 says, and that's how the snake lost its legs. Yes, I did skip over the curses bit, because they weren't terribly relevant. But yes, that is an ideology for why snakes do not have legs. Unlike most animals.
You know, if God's not real and we evolved from worms and from monkeys,
which are two separate propositions, by the way. God could be not real and we evolved from worms and monkeys. Or, well, you did. I evolved from worms and other dinosaurs. But anyway. Or God could be real and humans evolved from worms and monkeys. Or God could be not real and humans didn't evolve from worms and monkeys. Like, all of these are possibilities. These are not actually related to each other necessarily. The question of God being real and the question of common ancestry as understood by biologists today are not the same question, and they could have any answer in relation to each other without it causing a contradiction.
Then we made ourselves.
That's incredibly dumb. I'm taking a drink. No part of evolution involves you making yourself. The only place in which it could be reasonably said that you made yourselves is like ontology. Right? Like where you're growing.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're born and now you're going to start making yourself by creating more cells of you by eating. I guess there's that. That I guess could count. But by and large, no. You did not create the human species by yourself, by your own efforts. Humans didn't even make themselves. A combination of natural forces acting on populations resulted eventually in humans. Through no particular necessary, like, active act of humans or their ancestor. Savage Dreadnought Armored Schooner Cobra for $5 says, remember when a fundamentalist theology and their sacred texts disagree, the text is wrong and also inerrant. Yeah, that is a common thing that I see. Get a lot of fundamentalist Christians saying, actually, my theology is right, even when it very clearly contradicts the actual text that they claim to be basing it on. Which is why I never take anyone who says that they're sola scriptura seriously, because no one is. No one is. Sola scriptura is I've often said that two of the big theological points of Protestant Christianity have always struck me as being exceedingly and very obviously silly and wrong. The first one is the perspicuity of the scriptures. I mean, the scriptures just are not easy enough to interpret. That the perspicuity of the scriptures, which is basically the idea that anyone can read the scriptures and come to a reasonable and correct understanding, or correct enough understanding of the scriptures. You can see that just because of just how many different beliefs there are, all held by people who are sincerely trying to follow the Bible. And the next one is sola scriptura, because it is impossible to actually be sola scriptura. For one thing, what counts as scripture isn't even discernible from within scripture. That's why it took centuries for a Christian canon to, come about. And even today, there is not one Christian canon. I can think of like 3 major ones. So I guess, I don't know, does the Ethiopian Orthodox Church count as a major canon? I'm not sure.
I'm here for the Gospel of Judas.
Well, that's not a part of any Christian canon that I'm aware of.
It needs to be, though.
Well, go start your own Christian sect.
Bring back Gnosticism for the win.
I mean, it's not gone. Are you forgetting about the Mandaeans?
Wait,
Jackson is bigoted against Mandaeans. Everybody, Jackson
I apologize
hates
for all of them in your audience.
Jackson hates the Mandaeans and Mandaeism. That's what. You know what?
No. I'm saying we need to bring it back. We need to make it great again.
Just for that, you don't get to read the left or the right Ginza.
Tragic.
Yeah. I'm not sending you my copy that I don't have because they're not really easily available in English, although if they were, I would totally get one. Hey, if I do have any Mandaeans in the audience, how would you feel about, like, trying to get an English translation of the left and right Ginza put together as a commercially available book that doesn't cost like $1 million? I think it would be pretty cool. I don't know. I'd like to read it, and I don't have the time to learn Mandaic. Sorry. Roasting a gently used Keller for $4.99 says, by my theology is right. Do you mean my headcanon is correct? I mean, it's not totally different. It gets more correct the more individualistic the theology is, and Protestants tend to be fairly individualistic in their theology. Like, I can read the Bible myself, and I can get the right answers. Most other Christian groups tend to have some kind of, like, inbuilt authority structure that helps determine what are acceptable and unacceptable views. So, yeah. Josh McGee's for $5 says, 3 main canons, so Trigon? Well, they're canons with 1 N, unfortunately. So, yeah.
Those Protestants had some kind of a protest about that, if I remember.
Well, so it wasn't technically about the canon, although later they did change the canon. Because one thing you gotta remember is the shorter 66-book Protestant canon is, in fact, an innovation of Protestants in getting rid of what they sometimes would call the deuterocanonical or the apocryphal books.
Okay.
Because ever since St. Jerome translated the Bible into Latin, he couldn't find Hebrew originals for some of the books that were in the the traditional list of the Septuagint books. He called them deuterocanonical, which just means of secondary canonicity, or a second canon, in order to say that they were of lesser authority. That is not a theological stance that other Christian groups took. Most Eastern Christian groups never saw them as of secondary canonicity. So it's all complicated. But then basically Protestant Bible printers stopped printing them so much because they were seen as of lesser canonicity. And then later on, Protestants decided that there were actually good theological reasons to not put them in the Bible, which they never seemed to come up with before they stopped being printed in Bibles. So, hey, look.
Save the paper. Save the trees.
History of biblical canon. Actually, nowadays, most books are printed on paper that was made from trees that were grown specifically to make paper. So, like, people aren't really cutting down the Amazon to make paper.
No, they're cutting out the Amazon for other reasons. like farmlands.
Yeah, farmlands. Look, it's a complicated issue, and I'm not going to say that some guy who's, like, starving is wrong for slashing and burning some of the Amazon so that his family doesn't starve. On the other hand, I do think that there's a really big problem with the Amazon shrinking, and I do think that there should be some kind of national and international effort to try to find a way to make sure that people who need to do things like farm to not starve cannot starve, while also not destroying one of the world's most important habitats.
That would be nice, yes.
Yeah, And I do think that there are some groups that have some good ideas out there. They certainly know more than I do about the topic, so I would default to some of their suggestions. Anyway.
It is he that hath...
Pushing a gently used Skeller for $4.99 says, I woke up in a sweaty mess for you, Dapper, and good Jackson. Sorry? I don't know what to say to that. I do remember I was ill this past weekend, and at one point, I woke up, I'd gone to bed early, and I woke up shivering, like actual uncontrollable shaking all over the place. And so, I turned off my fan, and I grabbed, like, look, I live in Tucson, Arizona, right? I don't normally sleep with much besides, like, just a top sheet, and even then, sometimes that's only over half my body. Or sometimes a quarter of my body. There have been times when it's like, it's just my right leg under the cover. The rest of me is just on top of the sheets. So then, but I grabbed like an actual like a comforter, and I put that over my top sheets, and I turn the fan off. And then the next thing you know, I wake up and I'm just drenched in sweat. I'm like, God damn it, I cannot get a comfortable temperature. So I strip everything off and turn the fan back on. And I'm like, oh, this is the worst. Yeah, I really hate having like the no temperature control when going to bed. It's Hill Hunger, who's been a member for 24 months, says, time to drink for 2 trips around the sun. Well, congratulations. I assume that means that you've got a small larva who is 2 years old now, but there's a Godzilla, so we'll drink for the Godzilla. Right, here we go.
Made us, and not we ourselves. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture.
Jackson, or Bad Jackson, it doesn't get more true if you say it with more emotion and quieter. That's not how things work.
Are you sure? Because
Pretty
he's
sure.
saying it quieter and with more emotion.
It's a good point. I wish he would take the George Lucas directorial approach, which is faster, more energy, more intense. That would probably be more fun. But you know what? We're also a little bit past the halfway point, which means I'm going to go grab myself another drink. This particular can is getting a little bit watered down with all the ice that I put in my glass because I poured it into a glass, you know. And also, great time for everyone to take a quick break, bathroom, get snacks, get a drink, whatever you want. In the meantime, I'm going to play a music video of Beethoven's music, which hopefully will actually play the music. Savage Dreadnought Armored Schooner Cobra for $2 says, wait, theropods have sweat glands? No, I was actually wearing my human suit to bed because they don't make Ceratosaurus-sized beds that are easily available.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it's one of those weird things. Like, I don't want my tail just hang off. And so because my human suit is bigger on the inside than on the outside, I can squeeze into it and still fit on the bed. Yeah. But if I'm, like, camping or something, I'll just sleep outside, no human suit, because, you know, it's easier. Because the outside is Ceratosaurus-sized. It's the whole outside, right? It's elephant-sized. It's blue whale-sized. So, yeah. All right. I will see you guys in just a few minutes. All right, we are back. So, before we get right back into it, I have one quick announcement, kind of, and then a quick little commercial thing. So, as you might know, I sometimes do tabletop RPG actual play on my second channel. Top hats off. I just wrapped up recently a like 2-year-long 42-episode Power Rangers campaign called Power Rangers Jungle Beast, which featured a number of people you guys might recognize. My next thing is going to be Star Trek Adventures First Edition, set in the original series era, or maybe just like a year after. And it will be a bit of a mini campaign. We're probably only going to do like 17 and 20 episodes. But I do have currently a cast and crew list. So if you are interested in this, the crew is going to include Captain Edward Hawke, a human played by Jordan from Reason to Doubt, who's been on the channel. We've got Lieutenant Alec Croc, the Aurelian Chief of Security. Commander, that's played by someone who watches the channel. Commander Bir Chanos, the Andorian Executive Officer, played by another person who is a fan of the channel. Dr. Tragan, the Adosian Chief Medical Officer, who is played by Chesh, who's been on the channel numerous times. We've got Lieutenant Hank Lanford, the Human Science Officer, Lieutenant J.G. Jeedam Rast, the Aurelian Ship's Counselor, and Taryn Shelby, the cybernetically enhanced half-Tellarite, half-Scottish Chief Engineer, played by Craig from FTFE. So, if you were a fan of any of those people, or of Star Trek generally, or just of, tabletop RPG actual plays, keep your eye open. I will be announcing it when we have our first session scheduled. We have character creation done. We've finished with a session 0. We're now just hammering out the last details on scheduling. And then, once we have that done, I will be scheduling the first game. We got a couple things to read here. Heather Schrodinger's Fossils Coon for $4.99 says, trees grown for paper tend to be monocultures, and monoculture is bad, folks. That is true. It is not great. And then Savage Cobra Armored Schooner gifted 5 memberships, so we're going to take the drinks for that in a little bit. But I will update the tracker here. So I do want to say that, first of all, thank you so much for all the generosity. You guys have been great. I think we need like 40 members or something, and we've already got 15 new ones. I mean, it's possible we could get an emoji today. And the reason this channel can keep going, doing 3 shows a week, consistently every single week, and also having early access for months and months for people, is entirely because you guys are helping to support this channel and able to make it something that I can do full-time. More than full-time, honestly. I spend more than 80 hours a week. And so, real quick, I'm going to go through this quickly. If you want to help out financially and you're not currently doing that, then there are... Hold on, Robert Mabel says, what, no humans? There's 2 humans. The captain and the science officer are both humans. Anyway, if you want to help out, there's the Patreon, the channel memberships. Both of them get you access to the cool Discord server that's just for supporters. Both of them get you early access to my videos. Both of them can get your name in the credits at the $5 level or up. Patreon has a 15% discount if you go annually. The channel memberships start at $1.99. The Patreon starts at $1.99. The channel memberships also give you access to a few members-only videos, as well as the channel emojis and having your name be in green. I always tell people, if you want to do like the cheaper Patreon option, like 15% off, and also get the emojis and whatnot, then do whatever your tier you want on Patreon, and then just get the $1 tier or $1.99 tier over on YouTube. There's also a wish list link to the description for both me and Bent. Bent also has a Patreon link in the description. Also, there's a merch store. You can see a merch right below this video. Feel free to click through there and check out what I have on my merch store. And with that, I'm going to take 5 drinks, and then we're going to get back into this. So here we go. 5 drinks because of Savage Dreadnought Armored Schooner Cobra. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so yeah, the captain and the science officer are humans in the upcoming TOS game. We also have 2 Aurelians who are bird people, and I was not expecting that. I was not expecting 2 different people to both pick bird. But hey, you know what? Birds are cool. Lorenzo Morales says, opinion on your distant cousins, the Velosaurus. I mean, I like the Velosaurus. Their hands are ridiculous, but you know what? That's okay. I also like their rugose nasal bones. Because how often do I get to use the word rugose? Jackson, when was the last time you used the word rugose?
Not recently.
Exactly. So Velosaurs give me a chance to use one of my favorite words I never get to use. Rugose. It's like squamous, but different.
Simple squamous epithelium.
Roshina Gently Used Keller for $4.99 says, your Tuesday, Saturday, and Watering Holes Wednesday live streams anchor my week during depressive episodes with a hug emoji. Well, look, I am happy to provide that service. It's not my goal. Oh, did I just? No, I did do an error earlier. Oh, just now actually. Take a drink for Taps Professional. Sorry about that. It's not like it's my goal to make stuff to help people's mental health, but I'm glad that it does. But also remember, the fact that you can get through that that's you. That's you being able to get through that yourself. That's not me doing it for you. I am just the tool that you were using to get yourself through the depressive episode. So make sure to thank yourself too, because you are the one who is providing all that strength. I am just providing a place to pour that into. So, all right, here we go.
The Bible says, right point blank, we didn't make us. But if you
Okay, great. I'm not arguing that you made yourselves, man. That's not what evolution is.
believe in evolution, and it's that whole thing that we heard from Brother Dean and from Brother Steve last night, we want to believe we made ourselves. We're gods. We're gods.
Maybe you want to think that. I don't want the responsibility that would come with being a god. I can barely figure myself out, never mind any aspect of nature or, like, other people's lives. Like, I don't know about you, Jackson, but I feel like I would be a terrible god.
This is why I have an ant farm dapper, so I can be God. It's
Nice.
precisely for this purpose.
Nice. But yeah, like, I really don't want to be a god, at least not in real life. Sure, I'll play a god game here and there, but, like, yeah, I do not want that responsibility.
We're gods. But the authority of the Bible, as David said last night, is actually true, verifiable, and confirmable, unlike these urban myths and theories and hypotheses.
What was the urban myth here so far?
I haven't heard one.
I haven't either. Bits of reptile eggs crumble like raisins range. For $2 says, missed my milestone chat a while back. AIG. You know what? We'll take a drink for the AIG's bag of dicks emoji. Victoria, who's been a member for 15 months, is at the annual level, says, here's a pelagic tunicate for Dapper finally getting a collab with FTFE and a beep boop to Rachbot and Raichi with 5 O's who will be watching later with a Godzilla emoji. We'll take a drink for the Godzilla. This is actually not my first collaboration with FTFE. This will be, I think, my second. I was his guest star for his first episode of Stupid Humans. People forget that. They're like, Dapper, you ever do anything with FTFE? Like, yeah, a while back. That was the thing that pushed my channel over the 1,000 mark to get me monetized in the first place. So yeah, this is not my first collab with FTFE. Also, he knows a lot about Star Trek. I was actually impressed the other day when he pulled out some obscure references. I knew he was a Star Trek fan, but like, no, I was impressed by how much background lore he knew that doesn't always just come out in his shows. So I think he will be a fun person to play with for that reason, because he really does know a lot about Star Trek.
That are educated, but still guesses.
Wait, it'll be my third collab with FTFE? That seems plausible. Wonder what my second one was that I'm forgetting now. I know I did one with Feist Rhino. I think I've only done one collaboration with him.
Yeah. I think I've also... Well, I didn't... Wait, hold on.
I mean, look, I did a video for Feist Rhino while he was trying to deal with,
yeah,
the passing of his wife.
I did one for that. Now I'm trying to... Was that the one I've ever done for him? I think that's... Was it?
I think it's the only one I've ever done for him. He's asked me a few questions in the background before, but I don't count that as a collaboration. That's just him using me as a resource, which is fine. He's welcome to do it.
Sure. I have forgotten so many things.
It's true.
I've forgotten debates that I've done. Um, I don't remember. It was on some stream where someone was like, "Jackson, do you remember debating this guy?" And I was like, "No." And they said, "But you did. You debate." I was like, "Holy crap! I guess I did."
I forgot that I had been on 2 different live streams with R and Raw, and I only remember one. And someone had to remind me, like, "Hey, remember the time you were on Apologia's channel?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I did do a live stream with him and Paul. I forgot
You
about
and
that."
I,
Yeah,
also on Apologia's channel. I love that little image of us
yeah.
together doing the
We
soft
were on
tissue
this.
stuff. That was fun.
We were on the same episode, weren't we?
Yeah, we talked about like soft tissue and stuff
Yeah.
on one
I
of
think I
them.
also
Yeah.
mentioned radioactive fossils. That was fun.
Yeah.
Clifford, the
Yeah,
Alpha and Omega Dog newsletters, who's been a member
We
for
get
15
around.
months and is at the annual level, says, "Not to brag, but I have 45 subscribers, 5 more, and I can stream via phone and vastly improve my audio with the Ghidorah." Look, that's awesome. Hey, look, you have to. At one point, every channel has 45 subscribers. We'll take a drink for the Ghidorah. If you want to grow your channel, look, find a topic to talk about, and then just be regular in talking about it, and try as much
Don't
as
be
you
like
can.
me.
Well, try as much as you can to like get good quality videos and have interesting things to say about whatever topic it is. And some of it's going to be luck. Look, some of it is luck. I'm not going to pretend that that's not the case. Alex Markle says, "You forgot the Godzilla Nerd Fest. How could you?" Well, it's because I put it in a different part of my brain. Like nerd stuff and science and like nerding out about Godzilla doesn't take up the same part of my brain as like the Discovery Institute calling me deplorable. So
That was pretty fun. Yeah, Dapper, like we've been around for a little while. We've done some things in the like pseudoscience sphere.
Mhm.
I mean, we're essentially part of a group that's like the kind of main target for like not one but 2 different creationist organizations.
Yep. Also, we're
Yeah.
as a result of that Gunter Beckley article, we're officially like 4 or 5 degrees away from the 45th president of the United States. Okay, so Project 2025 is mostly made up of staffers of
Okay,
of that,
all right, I got
right?
you.
So that's
Mhm.
1 degree. Now, the Discovery Institute is heavily involved in Project 2025 additionally, which means at least 1 staffer for the 45th president knows someone from the DI and Discovery Institute. That's 2. And most people at the Discovery Institute are going to know Gunter Beckley, so that's 3. And then we get to us, that's 4.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, we're like 4 degrees away.
Dapper, I don't know if you saw when I posted this in our chat, but and if you are aware, I want to tell your audience, the Discovery Institute has removed its name from Project 2025.
Well, that's probably
Now,
good.
I am almost certain that is not because they don't support it. Like I would bet a very large sum of money is not because they went, "Oh no, this is too extreme for us."
Yeah, I doubt that's what happened.
Rather they probably realized, wow, the blowback from this is pretty terrible, so we're going to yoink our names from that so that people don't associate us with this thing.
Yeah, I think that's much more likely. Rochna, gently used Scatter for $4.99 says, "I have 6 subscribers because there's only 1 bad cat video up. We'll take some good cat videos. I love cat videos." All right, here we go. We're going to hit play.
Notice the little note that National Geographic put in italics. Zhu Jing is one of the scientists who originally examined the Archaeoraptor. As we go to press,
True.
Researchers in the U.S. report that CT scans of the fossil seem to confirm the observations cited in his letter. Results of the society-funded examination. The National Geographic Society is going to pay for some scientists to confirm the CT scans.
Something maybe they should have done in the first place.
Yeah.
Of examination of Archaeoraptor and details of the new techniques that revealed anomalies in the fossil's reconstruction will be published as soon as the studies are completed. We're going to get to the bottom of this. Yeah, we're honest. We're going to get to the bottom. It wasn't until almost a year, October.
How long does he think studies take?
I mean, he's probably like never done one, so I don't know.
A year is a pretty good turnaround for that kind of a study.
If you've got multiple like researchers, and this is international, because Julia Clark is an
Yeah,
American. Xu Xing is Chinese.
you can kind of tell by the
Um,
name.
yeah, like this took only a year to get examined. Like that's pretty darn fast.
Yeah, the fact that he's like, it took an entire, like, dude, how fast do you think science normally goes? Because it's not as fast as you seem to think it is. This stuff takes time. You have to get your initial results. You have to collate them. You have to go back and forth with your colleagues. You're usually going to be sending this to other people so that they can check on your work before you actually even submit it for peer review. And remember, none of this was initially submitted to peer review when National Geographic went with it, because everyone was like, nah, mm-mm. Once again, I just have to wonder, what would Charles Jackson have liked the scientific community to do in this circumstance? Because I really don't understand
I don't know.
what his preference would be. What would the appropriate thing have been to do in this case?
2000 at National Geographic, they hired an investigative reporter independently to look into the whole thing.
I really hope it wasn't an investigative reporter and it was in fact a scientist, but whatever.
And, well, no one noticed the Elmer's glue leaking out. No one noticed the Elmer's glue.
I think that was a joke that didn't land. I guess a couple people laughed. I'm going to drink for it anyway.
Some people laughed, but like obviously this was not just glue, right? I mean, it didn't fool the scientists, but it was pretty well put together. I mean, it did fool, after all, National Geographic and Steven Zerkis.
Yeah, and I mean he's not a scientist, but he was an experienced fossil collector.
Yeah,
it wasn't an obvious fake. But when people who were actually experts examined it, they were like, no. Savage Dreadnought Armored Schooner Cobra for $2 says, it's one study. How long could it take? 10 days? Which is an amazing reference from Arrested Development. I love that. This is chef's kiss. All right.
So this guy then, this whole thing happened. Don't forget that the first chart was July 1998. In November of 99, they found the Archaeoraptor. In March, a Chinese scientist, very famous evolutionist in China, said, I think it's a fake. He said composite, but National Geographic begged him to change the wording from fake to composite.
Well, that's because those aren't the same thing, right? It wasn't a fake fossil. Saying that this is a fake fossil implies that this isn't a fossil at all, right? Someone carved some stone to look like a bone, or that someone embedded some bones and aged them into some, like, matrix that they then lithified artificially somehow, right? It's not a fake, it's composite. Those aren't the same thing. Now, the overall creature is fake in that Archaeoraptor isn't a real thing that existed. But the components are real. So I actually am with National Geographic in this case. I think fake would have given the wrong impression, right? Because, like, you could argue that Piltdown Man was a fake, because not only was it a composite, but the composite pieces were themselves artificially altered so that they fit together better and presented an anatomy that, in themselves, the composite parts didn't actually have in life, which is not what happened with Archaeoraptor, right? It was basically two largely unmodified fossils stuck together so that they looked like one. And so, yeah, I don't think fake would be an appropriate term here. I can see why you might argue that it is, and I'd be willing to engage that argument and take it seriously and not simply dismiss it out of hand, but it is not the position that I currently would take. Nicholas Brody, who's for $1.99, says he knew peer review isn't checking for spelling. Actually, for all I know, that is what Charles Jackson thinks it is. He doesn't seem to have a very good grasp on any of this. And then Savage Dreadnought Armored Schooner Cobra for $5 says this is a composite propeller. It's obviously a fake. Real propellers are made of wood. Yeah, there's that too. It's like things can be real and composites. This isn't. A good example of like a non-fraudulent composite in fossils would be like museum mounts, right? So we almost never have a complete skeleton for any fossil species, right? Like ever. But what we often have are enough different specimens that we can construct an entire skeleton between the different individuals that we have. And so museums will often do what's called a composite mount, right? Where they take elements of the skeleton of multiple different members of the same species, and they use those to construct a full skeleton. That's a composite, but I would argue it's not a fake. And usually they'll tell you it's a composite somewhere on the display, if that's what it is. But that's not a fake. They're telling you about the real anatomy of a real animal that we can reasonably determine from multiple skeletons. But yes, they're from multiple skeletons. The thing that you're looking at is not actually what was found in any one find. I personally think that's perfectly fine. I've never heard anyone make a serious argument that it wasn't perfectly fine. So yeah, there is a difference between fakes and composites. You can be real and a composite. It's just that we have to know in what way you're real versus in what ways you're not. In this case, it's 2 real dinosaurs, both of whom were feathered, and they just weren't the same species.
That was their idea. That sounded a little easier. And then they hired this reporter to get to the bottom of the whole story. So, meanwhile, in January, before they even started this, USA Today said the missing link dinosaur bird featured in National Geographic magazine in November is a fake. Dinosaur bird link smashed in fossil flap.
Yeah, USA Today, again, just like National Geographic, all they care about is selling papers or getting clicks, depending on what year you're talking about.
Mhm.
Charles, have you ever checked to see what the literature said? The actual scientific literature? Because, remind me, Charles, or Good Jackson, how many papers describing Archaeoraptor have there been that were actually published in a peer-reviewed journal?
It was 0.
Yeah, 0. Exactly. Yep. It never made it to publication. Except in National Geographic. Which, remind me again, peer-reviewed or no?
It is not.
It is not. Is that where people actually do science? Is in National Geographic? Or do they actually do science in the peer-reviewed literature?
It would be the latter, not the former.
Yeah, okay.
Archaeoraptor is actually 2 animals pieced together. Now,
Yeah, but both of them were dinosaur bird links. I'm taking a drink because that's the greatest part about this. Look, this is like taking an Australopithecus or Africanus skeleton and like a Homo habilis skeleton and sticking them together, and then someone comes along and says, well, I guess apes aren't real then. What are you talking about? If I take 2 different transitional fossils between basal apes and humans and stick them together, I have done something illegitimate, that's true, but that in no way argues against human evolution. Because each of them individually argues for human evolution. And by the way, I've switched to Baja Blast in case anyone is worried. But hard Baja Blast. Because it's a drinking game.
National Geographic finds itself at the center of a scientific what? Embarrassment. Oh, the devil always overplays his hand. That's his main problem.
Okay, guys, remember, Satan is the one who got National Geographic to ignore all expert advice and publish about a bird, dinosaur, fossil that wasn't a real single individual, but instead was composed of 2 similarly transitional dinosaurs anyway. Because I have no idea what possibly could have motivated Satan to do that, but I guess that's what he's doing. You know? He's out there rubbing his hands together like, ah ha ha, what am I going to get National Geographic to publish and then later have to retract next? Okay, great. The Adventures of Secret Museum Agent Spy Writer for $2 says, Creationists are allergic to checking literature. It's true. Jackson, do you get that name?
I get.
There's this guy who apparently was a dentist or something.
Okay.
And he claims that a bunch of the hominin fossils in museums are fake. And that when he started noticing this in European museums...
Wait, is that Werner?
I think so. He was being chased around by museum assassins all through Europe.
Okay.
Because museums have assassins.
That sounds like a Dan Brown novel.
Right? Yeah, because the Vatican is also just staffed full of assassins.
Werner, yeah, that dude, I'm kind of surprised, honestly, that he's evaded, getting sued at this point for, libel or slander or something.
I think it's mostly that very few people take him seriously.
That's probably true.
The only people I've seen him take him very seriously are, the Eric and Kent Hovind. Actually, I've only really seen Kent Hovind take him seriously via his Creation Museum walkthrough that Cindy Lincoln gave. I've never even heard Kent himself take him seriously.
Yeah, we watched one of his videos on my channel at one point, and it's like it's bananas. He's just crazy.
A lot of what his shtick, from what I can see, is just where's the evolution, Harun Yahya style.
Mhm.
But like,
Yeah.
like that's it. That's just it. It's like, look, these two things should be, and instead of just saying where's the evolution, he says, see, these two things should have the same name. Okay. Roshan, a gently used color for $1.99, says, did Murdoch own National Geographic at the time? I do not know. I do not know when he acquired National Geographic. That is a good question, though. If anyone wants to look that up and let us know, please do, and tag me. You don't have to super chat it. Just make sure you tag me, because that would be interesting. I don't think he was in charge of that decision. If he did own it, I doubt that he had that like much direct involvement with the editorial decisions of National Geographic. But maybe he did. I don't know. It's not like I follow Rupert Murdoch.
He's
Yeah.
so angry and so eager, he loses it and doesn't think before he speaks sometimes and overplays his hand. I think he did that with Jesus in the wilderness, but he wasn't going to trick Jesus anyway. So here's
Okay.
Okay, cool. This is such weird Satan fanfic.
I mean, isn't Satan kind of a fanfic in general?
Kind of. Yeah. Kind of is the answer to that. It's complicated in ways I don't want to get into during Jackson.
Okay, fair enough. That's fair.
the issue. In the back on page 128, in October of 2000, they give us the results of what this guy found out when he investigated in their retraction. Look what he says. Using what I have seen, heard, and read, I've assembled a brief history of Archaeoraptor. It's a tale of misguided secrecy and misplaced confidence, of rampant egos clashing and self-aggrandizement.
I love how little this reads like a scientific paper. This is not anything you would ever read in a scientific paper. But okay.
Yeah.
Wishful thinking, naive assumptions, human error, stubbornness, manipulation, backbiting, lying, and corruption. It sounds like a list of sins in Corinthians or Colossians or something, doesn't it? And
Wait, that was supposed to be a joke? You know what?
Somehow it landed.
I'm done with taking the audience's reactions. It's my reaction. If I didn't even notice it was a joke, it's a joke that didn't land.
most of all, abysmal communication. It's a story in which none of the characters looks good.
Wouldn't it be none of the characters look good?
I mean, the only character who looks bad in this is National Geographic.
Well, and what's his name? Who bought the fossil?
And Steven Zerkis. But like, I mean, the scientists look fine. They said, "Nah, this ain't it," and that was kind of their whole job. They did their job.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yep.
Oh my, you've blown it all sky high. And this is Philip Curie here, one of the guys interested in this. The scans revealed that the tale, this is all from that retraction letter at the very back of National Geographic in October 2000.
Let's see. Savage Dreadnought Armored Schooner Cobra for $2 says Nat Geo was purchased by 21st Century Fox in 2015. This would have been before that then. Okay. And then Disney bought Fox. Because I definitely want all of my entertainment owned by Disney. That's definitely the way it should go.
Disney owns everything. Just accept it, Dapper. Their tendrils are in all of the things.
Okay, but now that some of their properties are entering the public domain, there is currently a cinematic universe all about horror movies surrounding their public domain properties. There's already been 2 Winnie the Pooh horror movies, the second one of which was actually not terrible. And then the next one planned is Peter Pan Neverland Nightmare. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's going to be a whole cinematic universe. And eventually Winnie the Pooh is going to rally all the monsters from the childhood Disney franchises to go on some kind of killing spree.
Oh, I thought you were going to
in a crossover. There's going to be a Avengers style crossover with all the including Bambi. Because Bambi the Reckoning is also in production or pre-production right now. So I've seen some of the concept art, and it's just like a zombie Bambi, and I'm like, you know what? Cool. I'll watch it. I don't even care.
The scans revealed the tail had no natural connection to the body, just Elmer's glue.
Did it say Elmer's glue? Because I'm pretty sure it was more likely
don't think it
super
was-
glue, but whatever. Antiwacrolate.
And he explained this to Stephen and Sylvia Circus. Pythagorean theorem. That's a good one.
I guess the video just skipped some time. Sorry, guys.
A good one what? Complex Brady stuff. I figure if I say smart-sounding things, people will think I know more than...
Is he reading a Calvin and Hobbes comic?
Looks like it, yeah.
Why?
Because he's Charles Jackson.
I
He just does that sometimes. He thinks he's like quirky.
Even for a creationist, so many of the choices that he makes during his talks are just baffling to me. I just do not get it. Roshina gently used Keller for $4.99 and says, "Isn't a horror plan for Steamboat Willie Mickey?" Yes, yes, that's the same production house that is doing the Twisted Childhood cinematic universe. Is also planning for a horror-themed Steamboat Willie adaptation. There is already Mousetrap, which is a horror movie. It's a slasher flick about a girl who gets trapped inside of, I think, like an arcade or something, and is stalked by a killer wearing a Mickey Mouse mask. And the mask itself is based on the depiction of Mickey in Steamboat Willie.
Mm-hmm.
Now, look, do I think that horror movies are the best use of these public domain characters? Maybe not. But the fact that people are able to do so, I think, is a unmitigated win for humanity.
I watched this one very bad horror movie a few years ago. It was called Willy's Wonderland, and I think it was sort of like a take on Five Nights at Freddy.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. Didn't it have
and it
Nick
had
Cage?
Nicolas Cage.
Yeah,
in
it did. Yeah, Nick Cage.
He said not one single word the entire movie, which is certainly an option, I guess. They were just like, all right, Nicolas Cage, we want you to not use part of the thing you're famous for, your voice. We just need you to stand and occasionally whack things with a bat.
And drink
he
some
said,
soda.
I'm in. Yep, and he said I'm in. So,
Look, if you want to see some good horror that is actually stars Nick Cage, in which he actually speaks and puts on what I consider to be pretty good performances, I have two recommendations for you. Both are not for the squeamish. If you are squeamish, don't watch these movies. The first one is Mandy, in which Nick Cage plays just some guy who's out for revenge for the murder of his girlfriend at the hands of a drug-fueled cult. It has a chainsaw fight, where Nick Cage and some other guy get into a chainsaw fight. So,
cool.
yeah.
Okay.
And then also The Color Out of Space, which is an adaptation of the H.P. Lovecraft short story of the same name, is also excellent. Nick Cage plays a father who has moved out to rural New England to start a farm. I think they're in Vermont or something. And an alien presence lands on the farm and seeps into the farmland, starts causing things to go wrong, shall we say. I don't want to give too many more spoilers. But other than the change in the time like when this happens to modern day versus Lovecraft, who was writing in the 20s about a story that was set like in the 1910s. Other than that, it is actually a pretty faithful adaptation of the story, and it's also one of Lovecraft's least bigoted stories. There's not a whole lot of those darn foreigners bringing their foreign ideas. Probably summoning demons. That's not in there. So yeah, those are the two Nick Cage horror movies that I will wholeheartedly endorse are Mandy and Color Out of Space.
I forgot to mention I did bring during the pseudoscience lecture, because obviously I had to talk about correlation and causation, so I brought out the chart.
Nice.
The Nicolas Cage movies versus Death by Drowning.
Nice. That is one chart. There's also the chart that is just scientific advancement over time, with the Christian Dark Ages leaving a gap, which is just what does this mean? This is meaningless nonsense. But I like the extended
love-
chart that has a whole bunch of other nonsense just tacked on.
Yes,
for good
I
measure.
love the memes that are like the Atlantean Revolution, like before that, then
Yeah.
like all that knowledge was lost, and then they had to start from.
It was like
Yeah,
the Russo-Korean hyper war or something like that. It's in there. It's like, yeah, sure, why not?
They're so good.
Roshan, a gently
Yeah.
used Keller for $4.99 says, "God bless public domain inspired horror movies. May that genre never end." Yes. All right, here we go. I'm gonna hit play. Oh wait, Roshan, a gently used Keller for $4.99 says, "Public domain horror beats public domain porn any day." Well, the thing is, with porn, because it's so easy to market as a parody, you don't even have to wait for the public domain. So yeah, there's already porn parodies of all of your favorite copyrighted stuff. It's just that they just changed the name a little bit. And also, I don't really need to see the Winnie the Pooh Rule 34 contents. I will skip that. You know it's out there.
Tragic. I don't want to know that it's out there. Anyway, moving on.
Here we go.
And they do, and will assume I'm right about everything. Oh. So reality doesn't matter? Nope, only perception matters. Well, what about when you're proved to be disastrously wrong? Perceived smart people are never wrong, just innocent victims of circumstance.
I really hate the voices he put on for that.
Yeah, those weren't great.
Have you ever thought that Hobbes from Calvin and Hobbes sounded like Eeyore, but like deeper? Like that's never been my impression of what his voice would sound like.
I feel like yeah. I don't think so.
Yeah.
No. I don't know what I would like assign as the voice, but it would not be that, whatever it is.
Yeah.
One newspaper told a little more of the story. This is from USA Today, February of 2000, the missing link that wasn't. Scientists in China have told you...
Okay, hold on. Is this entire talk just going to be complaining about Archaeoraptor and not actually addressing the real fossils that even Archaeoraptor was made of dinosaurs with feathers, showing a clear progression from more basal animals like Archaeopteryx through to various clades like Aluavis and Paraves and Picostylia and all this? Like, is he not going to address any of that? Is he just going to talk about the fact that one time National Geographic, against all advice, published about a composite fossil? Because honestly, I mean, if that's all it takes to debunk something, I'll spend, an hour and 12 minutes talking about all the hoaxes that various creationist groups have fallen for. Because holy crap, it is a lot. It's a lot. It's way more than you think. It's way more than the scientific examples they come up with, which are basically Archaeoraptor, which I guess is kind of a hoax, Piltdown Man, which was definitely a hoax, and Nebraska Man, which wasn't even a hoax, it was just a misidentification. Because, like, I mean, I'll bring up every single thing Ron Wyatt has ever done. The Teriyaki Ark, the James brother of Jesus ossuary that is almost certainly an actual ossuary of a guy named James, but the brother of Jesus thing is almost certainly a much later carving, and there's Christians still boosting it. The Shroud of Turin. I mean, how many foreskins of Jesus have there been over the course of history? I'm pretty sure way more than one, and at maximum Jesus had one. So, like, really, do you really want to do a dick measuring contest over fake things that have been believed by one group of people versus the other? Because I can guarantee you, evolutionary biology is not going to come out the worse in that measuring contest.
USA Today that they've discovered yet another fake tale. Appears to have fooled another group of scientists as well as the editors of the British journal Nature, the oldest and most prestigious evolutionary science journal in the world.
Okay, so he's getting away from Archaeoraptor, apparently, because Archaeoraptor never appeared in Nature, so I don't know what fossil this is. Do you?
I have not heard this claim. I'm actually intrigued.
Okay.
I'm intrigued to see.
Okay.
See what he's got.
Stores Olson, curator of birds at Smithsonian's National Museum of Natural History in Washington, D.C., turned the spotlight on the whole mess. Those involved with the scientific gaffe agree. Olson tried to warn officials at National Geographic in a letter sent November 1st that the organization was headed for embarrassment if it endorsed the fossil in November of 1999. Okay, now.
Wait,
Okay, so
he's still talking about Archaeoraptor?
I'm taking another drink. What? Why? So once again, we have a scientist warning people, hey, this is not real. Don't endorse it. Okay. This is extremely frustrating because I really, really, really want to know what he thinks should have happened. Like, tell us what should happen there, Charles Jackson. What do you think should happen when one guy buys a fossil that's composite? He doesn't realize it. All the experts tell him it's a composite, but because he sees dollar signs, he ignores them. And then he decides to publish it in National Geographic, who also see dollar signs and thereby ignore all expert advice. What are the experts supposed to do in that situation? Were they going to go attack the National Geographic headquarters? You want to pick up pitchforks and torches like they're going to go storm the castle to go find Adam? Literally, what do you want to have happen? I just don't. I don't know what he's looking for. Because I guarantee you that when creationists were buying up that some random rock formation in Turkey was actually the Ark, I don't think he was saying that all the geologists should go beat them up or something. They were all just saying, no, it's not. Like, what is supposed to happen? That's what's frustrating about this. It's one of the things with Charles Jackson. For some reason, he's one of the most frustrating people that I watch because I know he could do better. When I watch like Matt Powell or Kent Hovind or Raw Matt, like I know that they're just complete morons. They don't know any better, right? Sure, sometimes I think they're lying because what they say they've contradicted themselves on. In that case, that means they're probably lying in one case or the other. But like they're clearly not intelligent individuals. And while Charles Jackson doesn't strike me as exactly the genius he likes to make himself out to be, he doesn't strike me as particularly stupid either. And yet, every single time, there's some very obvious thing that I'm like, okay, buddy, what do you think is supposed to happen here? What do you think the right thing is? And he just doesn't get there. Like earlier, when he was like, is antibiotic resistance evolution? He never bothered to give us a good definition of evolution that we could tell. When he said that bacteria never changed from one kind to another, he didn't bother to tell us what kinds were, and I know he knows that these are important parts of that logical argument. I know he knows that because the man got a PhD. He knows the right way to construct arguments. He just chooses not to, and it's very frustrating. Command Cyborg for 50 sex, thank you very much. I do always appreciate when people send me the sex. Says, I'm not a self-made man. Dr. Charles, I was fooled by Archaeoraptor Jackson with a Godzilla. I'll take a drink. Savage Dreadnought Armored Schooner Cobra for $5 says, well, Roger thinks that rock formation is something else. Okay, but Roger, again, isn't someone with a PhD who should know better. Roger is a crazy man with a feather and a monitor and just a whole bunch of enthusiasm. So I can't get that annoyed at Roger, even though some of the stuff he says is way stupider than anything Charles Jackson is going to. The thing is, Scientific Journal Nat Geo, great. Oh, hold on, I have to collect myself after that. Give me a second. Says, he's smart enough and educated enough to be better. Exactly. That's what really gets me. It's so frustrating. And the thing is, he could do better without actually needing to abandon young Earth creation, right? Like in this case, where there's nothing else the scientific community could have possibly done because Nat Geo was refusing to listen. And he could just acknowledge that. Or just not use this as one of his talking points. Like, when more serious attempts are made at trying to disprove this bird-dinosaur connection, which I have no idea why creationists are so obsessed about. They don't obsess about that with whales and mammals. But they do with dinosaurs and birds for some reason. Like with Gabriella Haynes. Jackson, did you read the Gabriella Haynes Archaeopteryx paper?
You told me a little bit about it and how it was just truly abysmal.
It was absurdly abysmal. But, like, do you know how many times Archaeoraptor came up?
How many times?
None that I can remember. Because she knows better. She knows that it's completely irrelevant to this topic. And so even though the paper was abysmal on its own terms, at least it wasn't this. At least it wasn't Gabriella Haynes complaining that some non-experts went against the advice of all experts and decided to publish on a find that wasn't authentic. She's too good for that. And that's not saying much, because if you've seen my coverage on her paper, you'll know my low opinion of it, which is, by the way, shared by other creationists. particularly Marcus Ross and I think Brian Thomas were both on the response that was published in the Answers Journal that just eviscerated her. In some cases, more harshly than I would, and did. There were cases where I was like, I think these guys went a little overboard in their criticism, which is not something I was expecting.
Right.
Like Marcus
Sure.
Ross and Brian Thomas to be like, and another thing. Like, I was like, guys, maybe back off a little bit. But,
Yeah.
okay, here we go.
Oh, well.
Dr. Olson warned National Geographic, look, let us see the fossil first before you publish this article in your November issue, because we're the Smithsonian. And National Geographic said, we're going to publish it because in our judgment, the fossil's great, and we're National Geographic.
So Chuck, can I call you Chuck? I don't care. You know that National Geographic was warned by the scientific community not to publish this. You know that. And you know they went against the scientific community in doing this. And yet you're using this as a criticism of the scientific community. Chuck, do you not see the problem here with this? For the scientific community, you're doing the right thing the entire time, even according to you. And your complaint is that this is somehow a black stain on evolutionary biologists and paleontologists. When according to you, even now, you know that they were warned beforehand. Because at least before we got to this particular section here, Charles Jackson could have tried to make the claim like, well, I don't think they were warned beforehand. I think it was only afterwards, like with the letter to the editor, that any scientist came out saying that this was a fake. You could have at least told that. It probably would have been a lie, but at least it would have had some plausible deniability. But now that I know that you know for sure that they were warned beforehand, you don't have even the appearance of an argument left. So I really don't understand what's happening right now. And for that reason, I'm going to take a break because it's making my brain hurt. All right, we're going to get a little bit more in here, and then we're going to start wrapping things up. Here we go.
Burn. So the Smithsonian and Olson were already pretty mad. And when this all went down, they pounced on the other evolutionists and went, and they came after them big time.
What does that mean? That's another thing that's frustrating about Charles Jackson, is he'll say things, and I don't even know what he's trying to convey. It's kind of like Raw Matt in that sense, where like Raw Matt sometimes just says things, and I'm just like, I don't even know what those words are supposed to convey to me. At least Charles Jackson hasn't talked about pre-Yiddish yet. Which, by the way, is just Old High German.
He turned the spotlight. This is Storrs Olson. He looks pretty mad right there. I'm sorry, Mike. There he is in front of a bird he killed and stuffed. Probably not in anger, but...
Yeah, probably not. It was probably for his job. I'm also not very convinced that he's the one who killed it, but whatever.
It says, curator of birds at the Smithsonian and a leading opponent of the theory came down hard on Archaeoraptor. He is an evolutionist. He's not an opponent of evolution. He's not even an opponent that birds evolved. There is a little group of evolutionists that believe birds did evolve.
Ooh, it's the bandits.
From reptiles, but just not dinosaur reptiles,
yep.
Some other kind of reptile.
Mm-hmm.
So
yep.
they fight about that.
Confirmed prediction.
This is another reason why Olson didn't like what National Geographic was doing. He didn't buy the dino bird theory.
But it wouldn't matter if he bought the dino bird theory, because the group of bandits are on record at pretty reasonably recently, but that's 1999 is reasonably recently for these guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's saying that they think that dromaeosaurs are in fact flightless birds.
Mm-hmm.
So his problem isn't the idea that this is a connection between the ancestors of birds and modern birds. This is the man who would say, yes, Sinornithosaurus and Archaeoraptor are actually transitional. And they represent a stage in the transition between the basal archosaurs, they call them thecodonts for some stupid reason, but they mean archosaurs, and modern birds. This one is a hybrid. That argument has nothing to do with whether or not these are dinosaurs. He thinks they're not dinosaurs at all. Charles Jackson can't figure out if they're dinosaurs or not, because they're both members of the Dromaeosauridae, which he's already told us apparently aren't birds, but then he also said that Sinornithosaurus was a bird, even though it's a dromaeosaur, which isn't a bird, according to Charles Jackson. So none of this is adding up. And yeah, the bandits basically they lost their last good argument in like the mid 2000s when it was discovered that the collagen fibers that they thought, or the things that they thought were collagen fibers, actually had preserved melanosomes, and that therefore they couldn't be collagen fibers and were in fact integumentary structures. And that was basically their last even plausible argument. They're just done now. And while sure, some of them are still alive and still publishing like popular level books, no one in the scientific community has time for them anymore.
Bought the lizard bird theory, and so they were.
Nope, it's not a lizard. Jesus fucking Christ, man. I can't do it anymore. We're gonna wrap things up here. No one other than like that Peters guy. What's his first name, Jackson?
Oh, David Peters?
David Peters. No one other than David Peters is proposing that birds evolved from lizards. And David Peters is proposing that lizards evolved into pterosaurs, which then themselves evolved into birds, which is nothing anyone is even close to saying. That guy is a nut
doing
job.
That based on like low-res JPEGs, basically.
Yeah, low-res JPEGs that he drops into Photoshop and then plays with filters.
Mm-hmm.
No one takes that guy seriously. Like, literally no one other than he himself takes him seriously. There is no
Although
one...
he is prolific in his blog posting.
Oh, yeah. And look, he's a great artist.
Prolific.
Like, if you look at some of his paleo art, it's top-notch. It's really good. Now, a lot of it's outdated. But, like, yeah, basically, he started to go off the deep end. I think one of the first instances was when he argued that Agnerognathids were not, in fact, insect-talking pterosaurs, but they were, in fact, vampire pterosaurs. Which was quite the take. And then no one took that seriously, and he just kind of kept falling off the deep end.
And the pangolins are like sister to primates, and
yeah. Actually, Jackson, I kind of wish you were there because at the Grand Canyon, somehow we got talking about David Peters, and someone, I think it might have been TD Lane or something, handed me like their phone with a blog post from David Peters about cetaceans being
that was mine.
What was it?
He commented on one of my responses to Long Story Short about whale evolution.
Yeah, he did.
And he said they were like tenrecs to hippos to or something like that.
No, what did he say that the mysticetes were? It was that extinct group of marine mammals.
Oh, is it Anthracotheres? Or...
No. The extinct order of
Hold on. Give me a sec. Let me find it. I bet I can.
While you're looking that up, basically, as I was reading it, I was laughing so hard I couldn't breathe. I had to put it down and catch my breath several times because it's just that stupid. That's the guy who thinks that birds evolved from
Here it
lizards.
is. I found it. You want me to read it?
Yeah, go for it.
And I quote. He says, Mesonyx is close to hippos. Neither are close to wolves or sheep. Andrewsarchus is not a mesonychid, but a giant leptictid closer to tenrecs.
Oh my God.
Your whale cladogram is no longer current. Odontocetes arise from archaeocetes, which arise from tenrecs, which echolocate. Mysticetes arise from mesonychids, hippos, and thracobuenids, and finally, desmostylians.
Desmostylians, that's the word I was looking for.
Oh, yeah. Omitting pertinent taxa is a major sin in the sources you used. Rather than reporting on the shabby work of others, you sound interested enough in the subject to run your own tests. Try it. Then you will be a scientist instead of a journalist.
Yeah, that's not what I read, but it was the blog post about mysticetes being desmostylians, but it's in the same vein. Yeah, that's the guy.
Yeah, he left that comment on a video I did, and I saw that, and I think I put it in our chat. I was like, "You're never going to believe who commented on my video."
Yeah, no, that's the guy who says that lizards. Well,
he's like
non-creationist who believes that. But we do have to wrap things up, though, Jackson.
Who's the guy who said caves have like a body type?
Roger?
No, no, he comments on like literally everything. He was on Reddit first.
Byers?
Yes, Byers. Yeah, Byers. He's kind of like that, honestly. Anyway.
Yeah. Roshin, a gently used cutter for $4.99 says, "That's weird poetry." It's weird something. All right. So we're gonna wrap things up here because I just can't take it anymore. Plus, we're at 8:00. So, Jackson, you have anything coming up on your channel you want to tell people about?
We're talking with paleontologist Donald Prothero about his new book, Weird Earth, on Thursday at 9 p.m. Central.
Nice.
He talks about like flat Earth and hollow Earth and ufology and all that sort of stuff in his new book. So we're gonna have him come on and talk about that. In theory, at some point, once I finish editing Chapter 1 of The Rocks Were There Volume 2, which RJ and I are hot on the trail of that, we're getting it done. Once I finish that chapter, which shouldn't take too much longer, I hope, then I can do the grasshopper's tale, which will be a very nice and totally normal video for me.
Awesome.
So yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be very, very normal, and you definitely won't
It'll
get
be very
weirdos in the
normal.
comments.
true.
By the way, guys, if you want to help prevent, or let's say dilute the weirdos, go watch The Grasshopper's Tale when it comes out, and leave a comment that isn't weird. Okay, so coming up on this channel on Thursday at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. There we go. I got the numbers right. Pam Acker, Catholic Young Earth Creationist, the movie is coming out. It is going to be a long one. I think it's around 3 hours long. Bring popcorn, bring some soda, and be prepared for a longish video that will be, again, starting at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. Those are daylight times, by the way, because your country's still in, well, the United States is still in daylight savings time. Then on Saturday, I am planning a Dapper Reacts. I will be continuing my coverage of Pete Greer. I will not be accompanied by Vishanti this time. Vishanti is busy at a convention doing cosplay stuff and meeting with people. And, yeah, I told her to invite Ethan Peck to my Star Trek game. I don't think she's going to, and even if she does, I don't think he'll accept. But you never know. If he does accept, I will totally make him play Spock. So that is what is coming up here on the channel. Then, of course, next week, it should be Kent with Bent, assuming that Bent can figure out what the heck's going on and feel better. So he was feeling better for most of the week. He's a little bit under the weather again. As a result, also, we're not doing Power Rangers tonight. So if that was what you were hoping for, sorry. No, I'm not saying you can't watch Power Rangers. I'm just saying I won't be watching it with a group in the Discord server. With that, though, I think that wraps everything up. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week. Stay safe out there. And, hey, when was the last time you called one of your parents to tell them you love them? Assuming that they haven't been, like, horrible, abusive people. So, assuming that's not the case, go call one of your parents.
Today.
Tell them how you doing. I'm sure they would love to hear from you. All right, bye, everybody. Hey, before you leave, I just want to take a second to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or above. Ben Tovand, Tapioca Weasel, Whispers, Ella Runteller, Horseflesh, Ian Chen, Kelvin Brostock Van Manen, Landon Knoll, Mabdy Babdy, Wallace, John Ackerman, and Strawberry Vein. It's because of my channel members and patrons whom you're seeing on screen that this channel can stay afloat. Without you, it would all shut down. If you want to join the team, there's a link to join the channel below this video, and there's a link to join the Patreon in the description. On the Patreon, you can get a 10% discount for pledging annually, and either way, you get early access to virtually all of my scripted videos, often 3 to 5 months before they come out for the general public. Thanks for watching.